These are 4 different ways that you can create psychological safety in your team and make it an even higher performing team. Hi, welcome to Coffee Break Coaching. I'm Paul LeBeuf. Today I'd like to talk with you about psychological safety in a team context. So why psychological safety? Google did a project called Project Aristotle a number of years ago, and what they were looking for is trying to identify what are the characteristics of high-performing teams. And what they discovered is high-performing teams were more about how a team worked together rather than who was on the team. And specifically, they identified a number of different characteristics, things like purposeful work, reliable coworkers, clear goals. Those things separated great teams from others. But there's one factor in particular that separated great teams from others by a wide margin, and that was psychological safety. So the question is, how might you create psychological safety in your team to make it a higher performing team? There are 4 characteristics to psychological safety, or you might say 4 different types of safety within this notion of psychological safety. The first is inclusion safety. Do I belong? And in my experience, it's the little things with this, what are called microaggressions or micro inequities that can interfere with creating inclusion in a team. So what's an example of this? Mispronouncing somebody's name after you've known it for a long time. Something called he speaking, which is where a woman speaks up in a meeting and she gets ignored. A guy speaks up 5 minutes later, says the exact same thing, and all of a sudden people pay attention. Or being in a conversation and not looking at a person, not making eye contact. Through these small things that make a difference that send the message as to whether or not somebody is included or belongs in a team. So inclusion safety, that's one of the elements of psychological safety. Another element of psychological safety is contributor safety. And the question is, am I making a difference? Each person on a team wants to know that they're making a difference and their work matters. So how do you do this? First, you can catch people doing things right. Oftentimes leaders are really good at catching people doing things wrong, and they're trying to correct mistakes, which is fine. We want to correct mistakes. In addition to that, though, you want to catch people doing things right. Why? Because adult learning theory tells us that adults learn from what good looks like. So the more often you can catch people doing things right, not only do they feel better about what they're doing, but they can also do more of what works, which will naturally push out the things that don't work. Secondly, you can listen to the quietest voice in the room. And this is particularly key where you have more introverted or extroverted people on a team. When Google did Project Aristotle, they discovered that people in high-performing teams had roughly equal airtime in meetings. When you have some people who are more introverted and more extroverted, what that necessarily means is some people would be more willing to speak and other people you need to invite into the conversation. The goal is to create somewhat equal airtime. Again, in service of what? Contributor safety. The third type of safety, that's the basis for psychological safety, is learner safety. And the question here is each person on the team being stretched and are they growing? During this time of the Great Resignation, learning is one of the key retention tools that you have as a leader. One of the most useful frameworks I've seen to make sure that people are learning or growing, it's called the 70-20-10 framework. So in that, simply focus on 70% of the learning with an individual is on the job. So it doesn't take you any additional time, but you want to take each opportunity, each project with employees as a learning opportunity, on the job training. 20% is through some type of formal coaching or mentoring. So can you set aside time to coach and mentor your people? And then 10% of the time is what I would call formal training. So it could be webinars or meetings or other things, lunch and learns. 70-20-10. It's a nice framework to create learner safety. And then finally, there's challenger safety. And this to me is the heart of psychological safety. Do I need to accept the status quo, or can I speak up without fear of retribution? So how do you create a speak up culture? First, you want to invite conflict into the room, but it's conflict of ideas. And the idea is be hard on the problem, not on the person. You also want to invite respectful questioning. What respectful questioning sounds like is, help me understand your point of view, rather than me poking holes in your point of view. Also, as a leader, you want to be mindful of your position. Even though you'd like to have a flat room where everybody has an equal contribution, the fact remains that you're the leader. And as such, you don't want to do what's called priming, which is put your opinion into the room before you have the opportunity to hear other people's opinions. So, inclusion safety, learner safety, contributor safety, challenger safety. These are 4 different ways that you can create psychological safety in your team and make it an even higher performing team. So try these out. Let me know how it works. And if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the comment section below. Thanks a lot. I'll see you in the next Coffee Break Coaching video.